The Black Swan Incident. Hello, I'm one of the wildlife researchers that survived the Black Swan Incident. My fellow researchers that were with me cannot talk about the incident as they are severely traumatized by the incident. Here's my story. I as well as 3 other wildlife students were allowed to study this pod of orcas of 4. We were all allowed to name our orca that we were assigned and tag them so we can track where are they going and when they ate. My group named theirs Isaac, Lily, and finally, Lilac. My orca I named Swan was already pregnant with her first child. Lilac, being Swan's mother and the matriarch, lead the group to waters and taught them techniques on how to hunt and how to play like a normal orca. We all took notes of our orca's behavior, and me and other student who was the one to call the matriarch, Lilac, formed a friendship and bonded like Swan's and Lilka's mother-daughter relationship. Last night we recorded audio and movements and played them the next morning. It was a normal calls and clicks, even a few whistles, but all of a sudden there was a distress call. I saw Swan's shadow wiggle like she was trying to wiggle something out. It sounded like Swan was about to give birth. There was a loud noise when all of a sudden everything went quiet. Everyone was still. We played the sound back over and over to hear or try to see why was everyone quiet when we paused on the last frame and saw Swan's baby floating upwards, belly up to the surface. Everyone was sad and crying almost, until we heard a small noise coming from the floating body. Her baby was alive. Everyone immediately celebrated, including Swan and the pod. With happy clicks and whistles as Swan used her nose to gently flip her baby back into herself as she instinctually swam towards Swan in a sort of embrace. While we took a boat over to where the pod was and I could see Swan's tag still on her fin. The problem was that I needed to check on her baby to see if everything was alright, but since Swan is a new mom she's still pretty protective of her baby, so I could only watch from afar. One day we were able to get aqua diving gear and swim slightly closer to our orcas. When it was my turn to dive down, I recorded what I saw. I could see Swan's shadow from afar, but I couldn't see her baby. I could tell that Swan was calling for her baby, but her baby was not responding. Even Jay started to look around for her baby, but I couldn't. That's when I felt a small tap on the back of my head. I whipped around to see, to my surprise, a baby orca. But that surprise soon turned to shock as I froze. Its fins were too big for her body. Her fin too small, her tail wider than normal, her body thinner than normal, but its eyes, they were bloodshot, her pupils permanently looking up. This cannot be Swan's baby. It was only until one strong call from Swan did the baby swan towards her. I remember thinking, holy shit, that baby is not normal. As immediately swam up and gave my group the footage. Their reactions were the same as mine. After I showed what I saw to my classmates, their reactions were the same as mine. None of us have seen what we have seen. My teacher zoomed in different areas of Swan's baby to look for better details of her deformities. We were all questioning how in the hell is this baby living and breathing, and how did Swan never consider to kill her baby despite its obvious deformities. Later on I took another dive to swim slightly closer to Swan and her baby to see how is their interaction with each other. I had a tracker ready for her baby to track her down. I turned on my GoPro and started to search for Swan and her baby. I heard Swan clicking and singing to her baby. Despite these loving calls, her baby never responded. Swan swam past me and whistled for her daughter. I also tried to look for her, but I never expected her to be above me. I remember looking up to see her daughter's nose pointed straight at me. Her body was perfectly vertical, pointed at me. She was very still and silent. I took my chance and put the tag on Swan's baby. Swan noticed her, and it only took a gentle nudge from her mother Swan to get her to move away from me and with the rest of the pod. After coming back I reviewed the footage with my other classmates as they all were watching it with me as I zoomed in different areas again. This time in her eyes. Last time I saw her eyes looking permanently up, and they were still looking up. Raising the brightness, I can see every little blood vessel in her eyes. I can see the shades of different reds in her eyes again. I needed to see how in hell she could find me with her eyes permanently up. I needed to know, can she find food? Can she see me? Can she make noise? How can she swim so silently? Who is her father? There were so many questions considering her physical and mental health. I knew that her father was not Isaac, as Isaac was not even mature enough to even have a baby, so that begs the question, did Swan's father pass down his genes to Swan's baby? If so, how is her father like that too? When did this happen? And how? I needed to study her more. For 9 years I've studied Swan's baby, who is now a mature female at this time. She was functioning normally like any other orca. She never made a noise, and her deformities and her eyes stayed the same, and every day I see her stay farther and farther away from the pod only to come back like nothing happened. Her pod could be 2,000 miles away and she'd immediately know where they were. just like how when she was a baby she knew where I was even with limited vision. At the time, even after all of those years, I never knew what name I should give to her, but now I do have a name for her. 6 years ago Swan gave birth again. Only this time it was Isaac's baby. He came out healthy like a normal orca. After his birth he was introduced to everyone, but at the time Black Swan, which is the name I gave her, Swan's baby, was not there, so we all checked where she was. She was about 300 miles away from them. We assumed she was doing her own thing and left it at that, but when she came back she ignored her new baby brother. She just didn't have any interest in him other than leaving and coming back. I remember the news reports of other pods of orcas disappearing out of nowhere. No one knew who was behind all of this. They thought it was poachers, but there was no evidence, so they left it be. News can be like that, you know. So that brings us a few weeks later when Swan's baby disappeared. Swan was mourning his loss, and so was the pod, but not her daughter. She swam next to her, oftentimes pressing her body to her mom as a way of hugging her and comforting her. That's when I first heard Black Swan sing. She sang loudly, and singing she did. If only I can speak orca to listen to her singing. I knew she only did it for her mom, but I knew she sang about her brother. But how did her brother die? I have a suspect, Black Swan.